Ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls, my name is Reavyne and welcome back to my channel. And welcome back to another episode of Reavyne Tales. Now in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a scenario that happened to me when I was working at an old university. Now this video is going to be touching on some occult stuff, and if you want to know about some other ghost stuff that I've experienced with my time in security, let me know down below and I shall make videos on that as well. Now my quick little disclaimer for anyone new, I am a security guard. I've been doing security for 8 years, and every story that I tell in my Reavyne Tales story is 100% true, and it is stuff that has happened to me during my time as a security guard and multiple different venues. I've done everything. So this is the time I found some occult stuff. And it was very, very creepy, very, very scary. But I do have a bunch of pictures this time, which I managed to get of the incident. So I'll be showing those on screen as well later. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now this story begins when I was working at a university. Now I was working at this university for about a year at this point. It was pretty boring in terms of a job. I was doing the night shift, so essentially my shift started at 11 PM and I didn't finish until 8 AM. Now the entire campus at this point had been locked up and I was one up. That means that I was by myself for the entire night, which solely translates into I just patrol around, have certain things I have to do, and I pretty much have to make sure no one's broken into anything, make sure no one's trying to do anything stupid, and listen to podcasts and music the entire time because, you know, that's a thing. Now this particular university I was working at, they gave us swipe cards that we used to get in and out of the buildings because every building and everything was on swipe. And of course, to make sure that we actually did our jobs, these guys wanted us to go around and on our external patrols of the campus, make sure we hit all the swipe cards so they can track us. On the internal ones, also do the exact same thing. So essentially what happened is I rocked up for my shift. Like normal, I got there, I tapped myself in, I went into the control room, and from there I was doing changeover with the other guard. Now this other guard was another Greek guy. I'm half Greek, half Italian for those of you who don't know. So he's massively into ghosts and paranormal stuff, like hugely into it. He's also like massive into conspiracy theories. And he believes that several buildings on the campus are haunted. Now I only know that one is kind of haunted, and I have another story about that. If you guys want to hear it, let me know down below. But he thinks that several of them are haunted. I love testing this shit out, so I went and tested a bunch of stuff out, and yeah, I only found that one building which I'm kind of really fucking sus about. Outside of that, I walk in and he decides to just jump me because he knows that I'm the only one who, like, out of the guards who listens to this stuff, and he was just super freaking excited and scared at the same time. I said to him, what the hell, what's going on? He proceeds to explain to me that one of the buildings that is haunted, they found a whole bunch of really, really creepy occult stuff up in the attic. So it's like, you know, the roof of this building, it's an old building, and they found a bunch of occult stuff up there. Now this is really, really weird because once again, everything's on swipe. Now no one but teachers and, you know, staff members and basically us have access to the buildings at night, and, you know, all the students and everything during the day, they're in the, you know, campus walking around, they're in the building, but they don't have access to that area. It's locked by key. Now as a security guard for the campus, I have a master key, so I said to him, I've gone, okay, I'll do my normal sign on and everything, and I'm going to go check it out. And I'm like, did they find anyone up there? And he essentially told me that no, they found no one up there. They just found a bunch of occult stuff up there. So, and apparently it was still there because the facilities guys were too scared and they didn't want to move anything. They sort of just like left ASAP. But they were going to remove it the following day. So I thought, fuck it, you know what? I'll do my rounds and stuff, and then I'll go up there once I get to the building and have a look. So the other guard, he went home and I was by myself on the campus. So I did my normal thing. I signed on because we had like a little log sheet thing going on there. So I signed on, I did all that, got all my gear and equipment, and then I started patrolling around. So I started on one side of the campus and I was basically just walking around, listening to podcasts and stuff until I got to this building. Now this building is very, very old. It was pretty much the first building there in terms of, like, you know, ones that were made before the place was even a university. So this thing was very, very old, and when it turned into a university, essentially this building was used as a morgue, pretty much. It was used as a morgue and a place where they would, the medical students would like learn and do stuff like that. And I always fucking hate this building. Like this is a really, really shit building to go through, and I go through it as fast as possible because it's just weird. So I went into the building, and I'd actually never been upstairs before. Even though I'd been working there a year, I've never once had a reason to actually go upstairs. So I'm like, you know what, this should be interesting. Let's go upstairs and see what's going on. So I walked upstairs, and there was 2 doors. Now I am going to be putting up pictures as well for you all to see, because I was taking pictures the entire time to basically document it and for shits and giggles. Because I know as soon as you start talking about like occult stuff or anything, everyone, either believes you or they shut right off. So I actually got pictures as proof. Now I went upstairs, and there were 2 doors. One door was on the right, one door was on the left. Now though, tried the one on the right first, because once again, I've never been up here, no idea what's going on. And I opened it up, and basically in there was just a bunch of random weird stuff. So there was a giant painting, but it was like a warped painting of like, one of those Picasso things where it's like noses on the head, that sort of shit. There were a bunch of like outfits, costumes and stuff from like various eras. It was sort of like, it looked like a storage room essentially. And that was pretty much all in there. There's a bunch of candles and Ouija boards and just shit like that. So it was kind of weird to begin with. But I'm just like, okay, this place is a thing. And I shut the door, locked it up, and then I went and tried the other door. Now I opened up the other door, and it was, mind you, this at this point was 3 in the morning. So it was like middle of the fucking night. No one else is on the campus. It's all just, quiet. There's just me there. And this is one of the buildings that was haunted. And it's also the building that I believe is haunted as fuck based on past experiences. So yeah, I was sort of at this point, I'm not really a scared guy, but I was sort of, had my mag light in my hand, and I had my light out, and I was taking pictures, and also more worried, not so much of the ghost problem or anything like that. I was more worried of occult shit, so I didn't want to get sacrificed by a bunch of occultists. That was my main worry, because we do have evidence that people were up here based on the shit that they found, so someone had to go up there, someone had to put the stuff there. I was more worried about being sacrificed to Satan. So I was pretty much at the ready to cave some random occultist's head in. But I get up there, and this place is just pitch black. There is no way to see anything without my light. So I'm walking across this crossboard, and it's an attic. So it's like, really dusty, spiders. It's not a nice place to be. And yeah, I'm walking across this thing very warily, making sure no one jumps out on me. But luckily it was sort of a straight plank across. You'll see in the pictures, and then there was just, a turn off and a door at the end. So as I get to the end of the crossway, I'm keeping an eye out for people, and then I see this door at the end. So I walk up and I open that door. Now, it was really, really small in terms of like the space that was there. Now, there was a room to my right, all pitch black. There was a room to my left in this like small little area. I put my foot down, and I was being very slow in case I needed to jump back, in case someone jumped out at me. So I had my mag light ready, put my foot down, and as I put pressure on my foot, I felt the floor beneath me like sort of cave in a little bit. Turns out that was not a place that anyone should be going. They haven't obviously they locked the door, but I had the key, so I opened the door, not knowing what the fuck was behind there. Yeah, that entire like area, the roof, is extremely old and extremely unstable. So if I just like took a step normally, I would have fallen through the roof, and then I would have had to explain that to my bosses, and that would have been quite bad. So I locked that door up, not going in there again. And then I'm like, well, there's fucking nothing up here. I don't know what he's talking about. And then I turn around to go back, and there's another door. So there's this like hidden door off to the side. And I see this thing, and I'm like, that's cool. That's really fucking creepy. So I make my way over to this door. Now, there was the door, and then there was a corner next to it. So I made sure to have a look around the corner, make sure no one's hiding there or anything. But it was all clear, so we're good to go. So I get to this door, and I'm trying to open it, and it was jammed. So I have this massive ring full of keys. I'm like a key master. So I start going through the keys, trying to see which fucking, thing's gonna fit into the lock and open it. I finally find the key, and I open it up. So as soon as I open it up, I'm just like, okay, I can see why the other guys were scared of why this place is kind of fucked up. Now, I'm going to be putting a bunch of pictures on the screen right now. It's just going to cycle through as I talk and tell you about pretty much everything that was there. So the first thing I noticed was on the inside of the door, someone had written on it, the coffin room. Now, once again, this building used to be a morgue. So in the center of this room was this it was sort of like a wooden bench, I guess you could call it. and that was where essentially they laid the bodies down of people who would die. Now, back in the day when this building was made, I looked this all up afterwards, by the way. Back in the day when this building was made, it was used as a morgue. Now, when people would die, before, you'd get the doctor and that dude to come down and do an autopsy and then to bury him and all that sort of stuff, you had to store them somewhere. So they'd store them in this room. Now, they'd put the body on the wooden bench, and then there was like another wooden bench where I guess, people could sit and stuff. It was very small. It's not a very big room. Like, I'm not a massive dude, but it was, fairly small. Now, there is also this big metal thing that leads to the outside, and there was like a whole thing there. Now, essentially what that was for putting a bunch of ice and stuff in there and drawing in cold air, essentially keep the room cold so that way the body doesn't just decompose. It's a freezer, an old school freezer. But yeah, that thing's in the middle. On the door says coffin room, and someone's drawn on it saying coffin room. So I'm like, okay, that's fair enough. Now, one unique thing about the coffin room door was there was also more writing on it. Now, this is the most funniest thing I've ever heard in my life, because these were very polite cultists by the looks of it, because they wrote on the door, have you tidied the room, ? Well, don't leave it dirty for the ones that follow. Now, I find that very, very interesting that even the cultists who are just like sacrificing people, trying to contact the dead, Hail Satan, all that sort of stuff, whatever, Cthulhu, whatever they're trying to summon, they're about, make sure you keep the place tidy, guys. I love it. It's great. But I went down into the room. Now, keep in mind that there were only 2 light sources here, okay? One of them was my mag light, which at that point in time, the battery was sort of dying, so it was only at half power, so it wasn't very strong. In the photos, it looks nice and bright and everything. That's literally my flash, okay? So when I'd be near pitch black, my flash would go off, and then it would illuminate the room, and then it'd basically go back to being really, really dark, because the only source of light I had was my shitty, torch at the time that was half dying, and I couldn't use my phone because I was taking pictures. So although it looks nice and, illuminated in the pictures, it was actually fairly fucking dark, and not gonna lie, chills down my spine, because there was only one entrance, and I was also in there by myself. No one else was around, so I was sort of hoping that no cultists came back, and I was also hoping that no one was hiding somewhere that I didn't see, and then they lock me in there, or they come in with a sickle or some shit and then try and sacrifice. It was basically one of those things where I was like, every 2.5 seconds, take a photo, and as I'm taking the photo, I'm looking at the door with my flashlight, waiting, like hoping no one fucking comes in. It was one of those like tense, one of the most intense 15 minutes of my life, I'll just tell you that. But I started taking pictures of all this shit written on the walls, and not only was there stuff written on the walls, there was stuff written on the roof. There was just stuff everywhere, and all this stuff was really, really old. So essentially, they had this giant list of just names with, from, it said Voodoo 1962, 14th of the 10th 62. So obviously the people who wrote that stuff there were from the 60s, which was kind of cool. But there's a whole bunch of names there. There's one that said Les Tucker with an exclamation mark and a question mark. Like I don't know if they're sort of like, is that his name? I'm not sure, but that was kind of weird. But then there was also a bunch of a male symbol, female symbol. There was like an infinity symbol, a plus, a minus, and then just a whole bunch of people's names just written all over the place. There was a thing that said Death Seance with a bunch of names underneath it, 1964. There's also another thing with a squid for some reason with 3rd of November 1962, and then a bunch of names. So I don't know exactly what this place was for or why these people were doing it. Like, I don't know if all these people died and they were writing down their names, or if it was just people fucking around, but there's a lot of fucking names in this place. So it leads me to believe that people were just sort of adding their names as they found the place, but I don't know what they'd be doing up there. It's sort of a bit of a mystery. Now, on the big thing where you put the ice, they also had an Ankh up there, an Egyptian Ankh of freaking whatever. So that was up there. I don't know what the Egyptian thing was about, but maybe Egyptian god of death, they're cultists, who fucking knows. But that was essentially it. The whole room was just covered in names. The whole room was just covered in dates and weird symbols and all that sort of stuff. Now, so the caretakers did take some stuff. Now, the stuff that they ended up taking from the room when they found it, and who knows how long it had been there, who knows how long this stuff has been going on, probably 1962. But when they found this little occult room thing, they had a bunch of Ouija boards around. They had a bunch of candles. They had a bunch of sacrificial knives and shit. So with like, carved handles and some, book of spells and that sort of stuff. So all that stuff had been transported into the room that I opened up previously, the little prop room thing. And I'm assuming they put the knives somewhere more secure. So it turns out, I found out after the fact, all that stuff was in there, and then they moved it out and they just left the room. They were going to go through and clean the room and do all that sort of stuff. But at this point, I'd had enough. So I pretty much just made my way out. I locked the place up. Locking it up was really intense because I'm trying to focus on locking this door with the light while making sure no one jumps me from behind, because I was still worried that someone was there at this point. You never fucking know with this shit. But I did it. I got out, I locked everything up, and then I continued on patrolling and doing my thing around the campus. And the rest of the night was pretty uneventful, and then I got to the end of my shift. The guard who's really into ghosts and stuff, he relieved me, and then it was the best thing. I told him about it, showed him all the photos, and he was basically hyperventilating. The guy's like, oh my god, I can't believe you fucking did that, that's insane. Because he's just a very squeamish dude. So he was basically having a heart attack on my behalf, and everything was quiet for a bit, but one really weird thing happened after the fact. And pretty much this combined with the ghost story that I can tell you all if you want about the same building. I pretty much on my patrols from that point onwards just started avoiding the building altogether because they didn't pay me enough and I couldn't be getting killed by a ghost or shanked by an occultist. But essentially a few days later they went back up there to clean the whole thing out, and the lock on the coffin door had been changed, so none of us had the key for it. I wasn't there for this. None of the staff had the key for it, and they went into the other room with the prop room and all the Ouija boards and candles and all that sort of stuff, spell books, they were all gone. Someone had taken them. So they ended up breaking the new lock out, breaking it so they could get in. And then when they got in there, everything had been cleaned off the walls. So I don't know what the fuck happened there, who did that, when they had the time to do it or anything. I was on my days off, so it didn't, faze me. But that combined with some other shit that happened later on, I just ended up avoiding that building. They do not pay me enough. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That was my weird little night exploring the occult world, I guess you could say. It certainly did kill some time. I didn't get sacrificed with a sickle to Cthulhu, so that was also a plus, and I got to see some cool shit and I got some cool photos for you all. So please let me know if you want to hear the ghost story in regards to that exact same building. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. I really do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more Reavyne Tales, please let me know, like the video, share it around, and hit the notification button so that way you can be notified whenever I release a brand new video. And feel free to follow me on my social medias. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. They are both down below in the description box. And feel free to check out my Patreon as well if you want to support me further. I do need to update it though. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you all in the next video. Have a good one, guys.